On September 11th, 2001, our American way of life was attacked. Everyone remembers where they were that day and how their lives changed from that moment on. The American Legion is committed to honoring the memories of those we lost on 9/11 and in the global war on terrorism that followed. As part of that commitment, the American Legion Tango Alpha Lima podcast presents a special series, 9/11-20-20-20. 20 episodes in the 20 days leading up to the 20th anniversary of the attacks that changed the world. Each of the 20 guests delivers a unique, first-hand perspective on 9/11 and our nation's response. Here is one of those remarkable stories.
All right, we are joined today by Jessica Lynch, and I will say that this is the first time I've seen a guest name on the thing, and I was like, ooh, I gotta tell everybody I know that I'm talking to Jessica Lynch today. So we are super excited to have you here today, Jessica. Jessica is a former private first class in the United States Army and a former prisoner of war. On March 23rd, 2003, she was injured and captured by Iraqi forces after her unit was ambushed in Iraq. I can't imagine anyone listening to the show doesn't know your background, but she was rescued after 9 days in captivity on April 1, 2003 by U.S. Special Operations Forces. And Jessica's rescue was the first successful rescue of an American POW since World War II. She's been awarded the Bronze Star, the Purple Heart, and the Prisoner of War medals. Today, Jessica speaks to various groups around the United States about overcoming her obstacles and how perseverance helped her survive. Jessica further explains that despite the most difficult circumstances, whatever they might be, a positive outlook and determination can truly help individuals live fulfilling lives and accomplish their goals. She's a motivational speaker, she's a mother, and she's an educator. I also know that you have written a book and you have a movie out, so you kind of have the full spectrum of everything. So Jessica, thank you so much for joining us here today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Like I said, I was super excited. I even told my wife, I was like, we got Jessica Lynch. She's like, no way. And I was like, yeah, like our first bona fide celebrity here. So thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Honestly, it is such an honor to be with you guys. I mean, I look a little bit different. I have black hair now, or dark brown, I guess, than my usual blonde. But yeah, I'm happy to be here, and I'm so blessed.
Yeah, when you first came on, I was saying, you know, of all the stories I read this morning, I don't ever remember you having red or dark hair. And I was like, oh, so there you go.
No, all right. Just a change, but thank you.
There you go. All right. So, you know, you don't need to go too far into it, but tell us a little bit about your experience in the military and what you went through, and the perseverance thing is the thing. And I openly state, I've never seen anyone who has been handed a bigger pile of crap in their entire life and still handled it as perfectly as I think you did. And absolute sincerity, I think you got a raw stick in terms of everything the media portrayed, and every single interview I've seen with you, you're totally upbeat and great. So super excited to have you, but we wanted to kind of hear the story from your own mouth, as it were.
Yeah, absolutely. So actually, I had joined the military. So I graduated high school in May of 2001. And leaving high school, I knew what I wanted to do. I knew what I wanted to be when I kind of grew up. I knew everything, like I had the whole plan laid out. And for me, that was going to be a kindergarten teacher, just like my very own kindergarten teacher who was my role model. So from the age of 5 years old, I kept telling her, like, I just want to be like you when I grow up. So that never changed. I turned, I guess 18, and after that I had been accepted into this education program. So I never really gave military a thought. Like, it was always in my mind that I was going to be an educator. And so that summer of 2001, my brother, who is about a year older than I am, and my sister is about a year and a half younger. And yeah, we were home that summer and just kind of sitting around our dinner table, and in walks a recruiter and onto our property. So of course, you know, I'm from West Virginia, the country, so nobody comes to visit you unless you know that they are there. Like, we are just out in the boonies. And so we kind of all looked at each other, was like, yeah, I didn't invite anyone. Do you know who this is? It was a strange car. But as soon as he got out of the vehicle, and he kind of walked in that stance, and we knew automatically that this was a recruiter just by the way that he was holding himself. And so he approached us, and he got to talking to us about how, if we joined the military, I could get my education paid for and travel the world, and you guys know the whole spiel. So yeah, I mean, we kind of just sat there and kind of thought it over. And of course, again, this was the summer of 2001, so 9/11 had not happened. So the more we kind of considered it, it was a great opportunity for us. Again, growing up in West Virginia, we didn't have a lot of money. We didn't have that means to put all three of us into college at the same time. So it was a way that we decided that my brother and I were going to join together. And then once my sister graduated, she would follow suit. But yeah, I mean, it was a way that we wanted to be able to, take that kind of financial burden off of our parents. So next thing I know, July kind of rolls around, and my brother and I are standing there taking the oath. And he left in August of 2001 for basic training, and then I was to leave September of 2001. So of course, everything happens with 9/11. And at that point, I'm scared. I'm nervous. I had not left for basic training yet. I was to leave. Well, I did leave, I guess I should say, for basic training on September 19th. So about a week later. So at that point, I'm scared. I'm nervous. I don't know what to expect, because basically, our world had just kind of turned upside down. And I knew though that I wasn't going to back out, but it was something that I was very hesitant and scared about. I'm kind of like every other new recruit that was, about to go into basic training. And, I was scared. I didn't know what to expect. But yeah, so that's kind of how everything with me started right there around 9/11. And of course, I made it through basic training just fine. But yeah, there was times where I was scared and I was nervous, even after the fact of getting into basic training, and not just that kind of week surrounding leading up to basic.
Now, did your brother also go into the same unit as you, or was he?
No. Yeah, no, he actually went into I think it was like helicopter mechanics, some I don't know what the MOS for that was, but that was kind of what he went into. And so yeah, he left in August, and then I followed. But I was 92 Yankee, which is supply. Yep. So I went quartermaster, and then but he actually ended up, I think it was Fort Bragg, when everything had occurred to me, and they actually allowed him some leave time to come home to be with me, and just to be with our family at that craziness time, the chaos that had kind of circulated, not only with the media, but just kind of the healing aspect of me.
Yeah. So were you at Walter Reed, or where did they bring you back to?
Yes, correct. So I stayed in Germany for, I think it was approximately 11, 12 days, just because my back had been broken. And then my right arm was snapped. So I had to have a rod put in that, the cage put in my back. My femur bone, the Iraqis actually surgically removed that. So once I got to Germany, that was one of the first things that they did, was actually removed that unsterilized rod, took it out because it had caused such a severe infection to set throughout my leg that they were thinking about, that they were going to actually have to amputate it to kind of save it. But thankfully, they were able to remove that and replace it with a new rod. And then my left tibia was also broken, so there's a rod there. And then my right foot was kind of crushed, so they had to fuse that. And then there's pins, rods, and screws placed inside of that. So everything, I guess, is where I'm getting at. With all the healing, or not, I guess healing, but the surgeries that they had to go in and kind of get me stabilized. So I had to stay in Germany until I was to the point where I would be able to safely fly back to Walter Reed. And then I stayed in Walter Reed, I think it was for about 4 months. And I continued with more surgeries, and then just, the healing aspect, and, the external fixator. I had one of those on, and, not only that, but where the back was broke, I had to learn how to walk again.
Yeah.
The whole ordeal. So yes, I was at Walter Reed.
When it was about 2 years ago now, I think, when a friend of mine received the Medal of Honor for Iraq, and David Bellavia. And when I was actually at the ceremony later that night, after many, many adult beverages that we were all consuming, I ended up in a hotel room with a Marine and another Medal of Honor recipient. And they had both been involved in the operation to go and get you out. And it was crazy to see them sort of acting out the phase line with like flip-flops, and it was like 3 a.m, and they're like, and then we came here and we came here. What was the experience for you? I mean, you'd gone through all this turmoil, and then all of a sudden, boom, there's Americans there. What was like that? And you had to be in a lot of pain, and it was probably pretty surreal, but what was the experience like when they showed up?
Yeah, oh, absolutely. Actually, I got to the point, because I was the only American from my unit, or well, only American at all, that was captured and held in that location. And of course they moved me around. Like I remember even one point they took me to like this abandoned building and just kind of, put me in there and left me. So I was scared. I was nervous of any kind of noises, any kind of gunshots, anything that, basically just kind of wasn't quiet.
Yeah.
It scared me. I didn't know, I didn't know what to expect or what to do. But that night that the American forces were able to come in, I remember being kind of locked in this little tiny hospital room, and I could hear kind of all the diversion tactics, and the gunshots outside, and the Humvees and the helicopters, and noises, chaos that I had not heard. So all of that just kind of hyped up that fear that was already inside of me, because I knew that I wasn't able to move, because of the back being broken. Well, actually, all of the injuries altogether, I was not able to sit up. I wasn't able to obviously stand, or, so I was kind of basically just laying on this bed. But I remember, hearing all the noise that was happening outside of the room. And when I could hear one of them yell, like, "Where was Private Lynch?" That's kind of really where it hit me, that I was their target, whether this was going to be good or bad. I was hoping that it was Americans, especially since it was in English. And, for the past 9 days, I wasn't able to communicate with these Iraqis that were kind of guarding me. So to be able to hear plain English, but to hear my name, I think that's what kind of really elevated and heightened that fear, because I knew that I was going to be their target. I just didn't know how many or what was actually happening. So when they walked inside of the room, it was just pure chaos. And there is a actual rescue video, and if you look it up on YouTube, it's Jessica Lynch rescue video, and there's about like a 5-6 minute detail of the entire thing that is definitely worth watching if you guys want to put that out there. But yeah, I just remember just chaos. Everyone was kind of rushing around me, checking everything. But I clear as day remember I remember this one guy coming up and standing beside me, and he ripped the American flag off of his uniform and placed it in my hand. And yeah, he said, we're Americans and we're here to take you home. And that is something that I will never forget. And as I guess as relieved and scared as I was, it was such a wonderful feeling to know that I was surrounded by people that were going to get me home so that I could see my family again. So yeah, I remember looking up at him and saying, yeah, I'm an American soldier too. And, again, all of the chaos kind of intel, and they whisked me out of there and was able to load me up onto a helicopter and get me to Kuwait and then went to Germany.
I wish we had about 20 hours to talk to you because I got about 17 follow-up questions, but we'll give it over to Ashley for now. Ashley, you're up.
Wow. Yeah, when I found out you were going to be on the show, I was just in awe. I remember, so I was pretty young when 9/11 happened. So I think I was maybe 11 or 12 when I heard about your story, Jessica. And aside from the attacks of 9/11, yours is the first story that I can from like an early memory as a young preteen of what was going on the other side of the country, right? Other side of the world, excuse me. And I remember hearing your story and I was so awestruck. And I remember thinking how brave and how scared you may have been and how terrified, I'm overcome with emotions right now. So you have to excuse me. I'm really glad you're on the show. Mark, you want to ask one of your follow-up questions? 'Cause I'm kind of emotional right now. So
yeah, I think part of what I like most about your story is that you stayed true to who you are and you stayed true to the other people that you served with. And I know you had named your daughter after Lori. Can you talk a little bit about how important that was to you to kind of come out of this traumatic experience and go back and sort of in the Saving Private Ryan sort of nomenclature to make it worth everything that had happened?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I guess kind of to step back, I mean, those first, probably even first few years after I came home, I mean, again, the media was crazy. They made, these fabricated stories that were circulating everywhere. So one of the first things that I knew that I had to do was just tell the story about exactly what had happened, just because there were so many stories that were being told that nobody knew exactly what had happened. So that was so important to me to be able to give credit to the ones who actually, deserve the credit, because I'm not that type of person. It would have been so easy for me to kind of go along with any story that they had put out there, but that wasn't something that I stood for or could live with, I guess. So yeah, I mean, it was just that honor, integrity, and coming back out of the whirlwind of that. And then, being able to a few years later to have my daughter and, with all of the injuries that I sustained, because I look fine, but internally, underneath of my clothes, I hate to say it, but I'm kind of a broken soldier and I will be for the rest of my life. But like you said, it's how you come about and you make bad situations good. And that's something that I knew that I had to do. So when I found out that we were having a little girl, it was so important to me to be able to not only kind of honor Lori in such a way, but, just have that, I don't know, kind of reminder that Lori is always always with us. And, you know, we took her out to, or my daughter, we took her out to Phoenix, Arizona, and they were able to give her a Hopi name. So, you know, not only was I able to kind of name her after Lori, but then, you know, the Hopi Indian tribe was able to come together and also do a ceremony to recognize and accept her as one of their own in honor of Lori. So yeah, I mean, it was just little things like that that I knew, you know, it was all going to be okay. I mean, it was going to take me a while, but everything was going to be kind of worth it in the end. And now, you know, we're 18 years later, which is crazy to me that it has been 18 years. But yeah, like you said, I just take it day by day and persevere. I mean, no matter what obstacle or struggle or, you know, anything that I am facing, I tackle it by just, you know, never giving up and keeping that never give up attitude, no matter what it is.
I also love the Hopi. When I went to the Grand Canyon a couple of years ago, they had Hopi medicine men that came out, and it was great. But Jeff, you are up, my friend.
Good. Hello, Jessica. Lovely to meet you. If you looked in my browser search history this morning, you would find your name, and I would like to say it was because I was doing deep research. But what it really was is, like Mark, I didn't actually believe you're on the show. I was like, who else has this name? I had to figure out, like, so I don't ask dumb questions. I thought it was somebody else. So I'm also super excited that you're here. Because that was the longest that I've ever stayed silent. So I'm gonna make a couple points before my question. If the Marine Corps hadn't taken away my tear ducts upon boot camp, when you told that ripping the flag and giving it to you story, I might have teared up myself, because that is, and I'm in Hollywood right now, so that is a movie moment. And I 100% get why that is such a burned in image for you. That's amazing. And then my last little observation from what you said, I feel so inadequate because I was scared to go to boot camp because someone made me watch Full Metal Jacket. That's all it took. I just watched Full Metal Jacket, and I was like, I've made a huge mistake. You, on the other hand, saw one of the most significant tragedies this country has ever known, and had to go to boot camp a week later. I don't know if people really understand the significance of having an experience and then being catapulted into that experience. And you were catapulted into that experience in ways that, even though I'm talking about it, I will never be able to articulate it. And you are doing that on the regular as a motivational speaker. So now I'm getting to my point. You, through all of this, you speak of everything. You speak of horrible things that happen in the country, horrible things that happen to you, horrible things that happen to the way people were treated that were with you. But you do always stay upbeat. You know, now I'm curious about what was going on with Jessica Lynch internally during those 9 days. If you think it helped you to survive and recover, and how are you translating that into bettering people's lives now with the work that you're doing? That's why I woke up this morning, was to ask you that question.
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, that's a really good question. So during the 9 days, I knew that my body was basically kind of deteriorating. Let's just put it the way it is. I was only about 100 pounds back then. I mean, obviously a little bit more now, but back then I was about 100 pounds, 19 years old. And then throw on top of that, you know, I was the only survivor that had, I guess, survived that the Humvee, inside of the Humvee. So obviously Lori didn't make it, and then the 3 men that were sitting there beside me were all shot and killed. So being the only survivor and not knowing what happened to anybody else in my unit, I just knew that when I came to, because they had, I was knocked unconscious. So when I awoke and I was laying there on that bed, that, opening my eyes for the very first time and seeing these 3 Iraqi men standing over top of me, that's something else that I will never forget. It's not as, I guess, a vivid picture as the one that I will never forget with the guy, handing me the flag, but that is something that will stick with me for the rest of my life. And it's something that I just can't, unsee. But, being there alone, again, 19 years old, I'm about 100 pounds. Again, the injuries, I couldn't move. And then on top of that, not being fed or having water, the only thing that I was given during those 9 days is about a 4-ounce cup of orange juice. And so when I was rescued, they estimated that I weighed around 76, 77 pounds. So being 19 years old, that wasn't healthy. So obviously, I was in great deal of pain, but then just, again, add on top of, the frail state that I was in, I could literally feel each day that I wasn't going to survive the next. Like I kept kind of not losing hope, because that's the only thing that kind of kept me going. But it was just something, like your body just kind of can't go on any longer. So it was more mental. Like I kept telling myself, you gotta hang in, you gotta keep going. So it was just something inside of me that, again, that perseverance, that never give up attitude that I just kept holding on to and thinking, I just need to see my family. I just want to, find out what happened to my comrades. So there was just things that, and as little or, microscopic as it seems, it was such a big deal to me. It was just holding on to any hope that I could. So that's kind of where my head was at during those 9 days, because it was all mental at that point, because physically I just wasn't strong enough to keep going. So once I got out, and again, I was given this very, I guess, rare opportunity to become a motivational speaker and to speak about, this great topic that, I say perseverance because that to me was one of the greatest things that, helped me kind of overcome these, struggles and roadblocks and obstacles that clearly was trying to stop me. So becoming a motivational speaker and being able to talk to, at this point, thousands and thousands of people and hundreds of groups was my way of reaching out. And to me, if I could just save one person, I know that we hear that all the time, if we can just save one person, then it is well worth it. And to me, that's what it was about, because I have met so many that have been struggling with PTSD or, the thought of suicide. And these don't even have to be veterans. I mean, I've met so many that have, walked up to me after I talked about this whole experience and what I went through. And, they just look at me and they say, you know what, if you can go through what you did, then what I'm going through, whether it was, losing a parent or becoming financially unstable, or, because there's so many things that we all face every single day. And it's not just me, it's worldwide, we all face things. So yeah, I mean, these people would come up to me and they would just talk to me about, what they kind of have learned to overcome because of what I talked about. So that's kind of why I do what I do, and still continue to do it. And even being a teacher has allowed me to reach so many students who are, struggling with homework, or, they don't want to go home because they're being abused or whatever. I love just being in the classrooms and having that kind of opportunity to have, kids come up to me and want to talk.
Wow, that's awesome. And then the last thing before I hand it off, I just wanted, because when you spoke about your, the West Virginia story and the not inviting people over, so when a car comes up, like everybody wants to know what's happening. And then I just got in my brain when you were talking about being put in that building, how every sound, everything that wasn't quiet scared the crap out of you. And the link to those things, because you grew up with quiet was comfort, and then when you were taken away, the absence of quiet was terror. And I think the mental aspect, and they were able to overcome, the combination of those two things, the comfort of quiet and the absence of quiet is terror. It's one of those things that isn't a movie moment, but to me, because I'm sitting here thinking about it as you said those words, it's quite remarkable to me. So I'm a little bit in awe of even the smallest details of what you had to go through.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I think, because West Virginia is kind of more rural. We're not a big city or anything. I mean, we do have bigger cities here in West Virginia, but just not where I kind of grew up. So, yeah, I mean, even as a kid, I kind of wanted to, I like to be alone, but I like to have people near me that I knew, was in the next room, or kind of like any other kid that, so yeah, when those noises or not noises weren't happening, it kind of makes you wonder what is happening on the outside. And yeah, it was scary. I mean, and I'll tell you a side story because I know we got to kind of wrap up, but so when they took me down to the operating room to amputate the leg, when the Iraqis took me down to the operating room, I remember them putting my body over onto the operating room table. And I don't remember having any kind of IVs or anything like that, but I remember them putting the oxygen mask over my face. And one of the Iraqis who could speak a little bit of English telling me to count. And at that point, I remember just being, again, scared, but crying and kind of begging and pleading for them to stop. So I don't know what kind of made them stop, but I remember them, then stopping, putting me back over onto the bed. So anyway, so they put me back upstairs. And at that point, I was even scared to be alone and not with those I guess, Iraqi guards that were kind of guarding me the whole time, because even though they were supposed to be our enemies, they became kind of almost, I guess just someone I kind of looked toward because I knew that they hadn't tried to hurt me. So when they weren't around me, then that also scared me. So just, I guess, having them near me scared me, but having them not there also scared me. So it was kind of like a double, edge of the sword that I didn't know, do I want to be alone? Do I not want to be alone? Do I cry for help? Do I, not cry for help? Like, what do I do? So every kind of again, any kind of noises that I wasn't used to hearing, like even if it was just a car driving by outside, if I was in a, you know, in a location where I could hear that, that scared me because I didn't know, you know, what that car was doing or, you know, what was their intention. So it's just all those little things, like you said, it kind of elevated that fear within me.
Well, we are over time, but I can't let you go without just one quick question. Like, what's it like being Jessica Lynch now? Can you go anywhere and just be Jessica from Palestine, West Virginia, or are you the world famous, everyone's heard about you person? And when you're talking to people and you say, I'm Jessica Lynch, did you see like the light go on? Like, I know who that is.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So I just got back this weekend from Savannah, Georgia, kind of doing a music video out of all things. So I got to take part in that. So just flying back and just being down there, of course, I mean, everyone was like, wait, what was your name? So I'd be like, Jessica Lynch. And they were like, oh, I remember that story. You know, I was such and such place. And I'm going, yeah. So yeah, it does happen. Not so much in my little hometown anymore because, you know, these are people that I kind of grew up with. So, you know, they're used to seeing me out and about. And but yeah, when I do still travel, it is crazy that people still recognize the name.
Yeah, it's as soon as I saw the name this morning, I was like, holy crap, we actually got Jessica Lynch on the show. I was kind of amazed. Still don't know how it happened, but
I am as well. Like when I saw it, I was like, the Jessica Lynch?
and that was
I had to go through all of like, I was like, wait a minute. And then it was like, how many other Jessica Lynches do I know? I was like, well, the story I remember from like my childhood, and then additionally, like have done a report on you, Jessica. And I have definitely, yes, all of the above as a women veterans advocate, as a service member. Again, I do apologize for being emotional, but I'm not going to apologize for being emotional because you're amazing. And all of that was real and raw for anyone who's watching the video because your story resonates, I think, with so many of our listeners, not necessarily to all levels of extreme, but there are these lessons of adversity that you are giving us and how, you know, we don't know how strong we are until strong is our only option. And, you know, despite all the things that happen to us, like, you know, some people call it fatal optimism, but I think it's just called being realistic with your situation in life and, you know, accepting it one day at a time and living your life fully and presently as possible. And I really appreciate you being on the show. I know all of our listeners are going to be like, wait, the Jessica Lynch? We're like, yup, I can't wait to put that in the comments. I'm just kidding. But I know I didn't get to really, you know, ask you a bunch of questions. I'm totally fangirling over here in all the weirdest ways, but very emotional, but thank you.
What was going to be awkward is if I was the one that was fangirling the whole time. So thank you, Ashley, for covering for me.
You're welcome.
Because I didn't want to be the only one like kind of stunned silent by Jessica.
So once I came back home, I was given the opportunity to write a book just to talk about all of the experiences that I did encounter. And it was mainly for me a way to be able to get everything off of my chest because I know so many veterans, they come home. And I say veterans because it usually happens years after you get out of the military that you bottle everything up, you don't talk about it. So for me, it was a way to not only, you know, describe what I had gone through, but also to be able to get everything off my chest because during this time, I did not know that, you know, I would still be a motivational speaker 18 years later. So when this opportunity came about, you know, obviously I was going to take it because again, who would have thought 20 years later, almost 20 years later, that I would still have the opportunity to go around and be able to tell my side of the story. So, you know, yeah, so it's called I Am a Soldier Too by Jessica Lynch. And this was released in 2003. I do have, or I guess I should say, I will have, because you guys have not seen it yet, I will be releasing another book hopefully this fall, but it will be more on the aspect of kind of leadership, what I've experienced over, past 18 years of things that I have learned and have or combined. So yeah, this is the first book that was written. Again, we will have another one coming out. And then, one of the fun experiences that I got was about 7 years ago, I was asked to take part in this movie called Virtuous. And I really didn't know too much about, acting or who was going to be in it until I got on set and there was Eric Estrada. So being able to work with him and be able to tour with him afterwards, because there was quite a few times that he would actually go with us, to churches or schools or, organizations would bring us in to kind of talk about the movie and the real life of how it led. So yeah, it was just a blast to be able to kind of get to work with an actual big movie star. And then I've actually went on and made quite a few other movies. And then, like I said, this past weekend, I got to do a country music video. So once I get all of those details and once they have, everything released, I'll send it your guys' way.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
I'm pulling you up on IMDb now because that was one of the few places I hadn't considered looking you up, but yeah. Look at that. You were Mrs. Jill on the train and Amazed by You. I don't know what any word in there means, but.
Well, I'm curious, these books, so when is the new one coming?
Well, we're kind of still working on it.
Are you writing it?
Well,
you're still writing it.
Well, it's kind of already written. It's just going through the kind of editing processes and getting everything. And then, of course, it's just timing of, when do we want to kind of release it. So it's definitely not going to be a big book like this. It'll be kind of a smaller, more intimate, getting to know who I really am, where this first book kind of really focuses on what happened to me in Iraq. So this one, the new one, will be kind of a smaller, again, things that I have learned over the past 18 years and kind of, little.
I ask for selfish, not selfish for me, but selfish for my post. We have a library that I'm trying to enhance. So I'm probably gonna beg for autographed versions of those books. So be on the lookout for a plea from Hollywood.
Absolutely.
Jessica, you are amazing. I'm so glad you came on. You couldn't be a kinder person, and I kind of knew that coming in, but I really appreciate you coming on the show today.
Oh, thank you guys so much. Honestly, I appreciate it, but more importantly, I am honored to take part in your show. So thank you for having me.
All right, everybody. Well, that is it for this show. We will be back tomorrow with another 9/11 story. But Jessica Lynch, thank you so much. I have to say Jessica Lynch, like it's the full name. It's not just Jessica.
It's the brand.
It is. Jessica Lynch, thank you so much for joining us on our little tiny show here. And you are world famous, and you should be world famous. So thank you very much.